Welcome back to Philosophy Unpacked. Today, we're delving into a really fascinating chapter from Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra that uses the simple act of sleeping as a powerful metaphor.
That sounds interesting. Sleep isn't usually the first thing that comes to mind with a philosopher like Nietzsche. What's the setup for this particular section?
Well, the story begins with the main character, Zarathustra, encountering a so-called wise man. This man is incredibly famous for his ability to teach people about virtue and sleep.
So he's a sort of self-help guru of his time, and his specialty is teaching people how to live a virtuous life in order to get a good night's sleep.
Exactly. The youths of the town all gather round his academic chair to listen to his wisdom. Zarathustra joins them to hear what this celebrated teacher has to say.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So what is this wise man's secret to a good night's sleep? I'm sure our listeners would love to know what he recommends.
His core philosophy is that good sleep is not something that just happens to you. He calls it a small art. It requires conscious effort and specific practices throughout the entire day.
So it's not about having a comfortable mattress or avoiding caffeine. It's about how you conduct yourself from the moment you wake up. What are these daytime practices?
He lays out a very specific daily routine. He says that 10 times a day you must overcome yourself. This creates a healthy kind of exhaustion, which he calls a poppy to the soul.
Overcome yourself? What does he mean by that? Does it mean pushing through challenges or resisting temptations, that sort of thing?
That's a great way to put it. It's about exercising self-discipline, like choosing to work on a difficult task instead of procrastinating, or holding your tongue when you're tempted to say something harsh.
That makes sense, but the text also mentions that overcoming is bitterness. So he follows up with another rule, right? About reconciliation.
Yes, precisely. He says you must also reconcile with yourself 10 times. After the struggle of overcoming, you need to make peace with yourself to avoid carrying that bitterness to bed.
So it's a two-step process. First, you push yourself to be better, and then you forgive yourself for the struggle or any failures along the way. It's about finding inner balance.
Exactly. The next step is that you must find 10 truths during the day. He suggests that if you don't, your soul will go to bed hungry, searching for truth in the night.
These don't have to be grand, universal truths, right? It could be a small insight about yourself or a new understanding of a situation you're in.
Absolutely. It's about mental nourishment. And for emotional nourishment, he says you must laugh and be cheerful 10 times a day to prevent your stomach, which he calls the father of affliction, from bothering you at night.
So we have 10 overcomings, 10 reconciliations, 10 truths, and 10 laughs. It's a very structured approach to managing your psychological and emotional state.
It is, and he links all of this directly to virtue. He claims that to sleep well, one must possess all the virtues, like not lying or cheating. A guilty conscience is a known enemy of sleep.
That part seems straightforward. If you're worried about your bad deeds, you'll toss and turn. But then he says something very strange, that you have to send the virtues themselves to sleep.
This is a brilliant and crucial point. He warns that you don't want your virtues, which he personifies as good females, quarreling over you as you try to rest.
What does he mean by the virtues quarreling? Is he talking about the internal conflict of being a perfectionist, where you're constantly judging whether you are good enough today?
You've hit the nail on the head. It's about letting go of that relentless self-evaluation. At the end of the day, you must release the need to be perfectly virtuous and just find peace.
And this theme of finding peace extends beyond just yourself, doesn't it? He talks about being at peace with God, your neighbor, and even your neighbor's devil.
Yes, it's a very pragmatic approach to eliminating all sources of anxiety. He says you should make peace with everything and everyone. Otherwise, those conflicts will haunt you in sleep.
He even says to honor and obey the government, even a crooked one. It seems his advice is to simply avoid any and all external conflict for the sake of tranquility.
Exactly. He also advises against wanting too many honors or great treasures because they excite the spleen or cause anxiety. A good name and a little treasure are enough for good sleep.
So, after living this perfectly structured and peaceful day, how does the wise man actually fall asleep? He says he doesn't summon it.
That's right. He says sleep, the lord of the virtues, dislikes being summoned. Instead, he lies down and calmly ruminates on his day, patiently, like a cow chewing its cud.
And he thinks about his 40 thoughts, the 10 overcomings, reconciliations, truths, and laughs he experienced during the day.
Yes, this gentle, structured reflection cradles him, and eventually sleep comes to him unsummoned, like a dearest of thieves that steals away his thoughts until he lies peacefully.
It's a beautiful image. But Zarathustra, listening to all this, has a very different reaction. He laughs to himself and thinks the wise man is a fool.
He does. He sees him as a fool, but also acknowledges that the man is undeniably an expert at sleeping. This is where the deeper critique from Nietzsche comes in.
What is the big insight that Zarathustra has in this moment? What does he realize about this wise man and his followers?
He realizes that what people have always sought from these teachers of virtue wasn't really wisdom or a higher purpose. They were just looking for a good night's sleep.
So the complex systems of morality and virtue were essentially just sophisticated sleeping aids, a way to soothe the anxieties of life.
Precisely. Zarathustra calls them poppy head virtues, suggesting they are like a drug. The wisdom being offered was just sleep without dreams, which is a metaphor for a life devoid of higher meaning.
A life without dreams, meaning a life without aspirations, without struggle, without the grand passions that might actually keep you up at night.
That's the core of it. This wise man's philosophy is designed to eliminate all struggle and discomfort. It's a wisdom of pure comfort and tranquility.
It seems very practical on the surface, but Zarathustra sees it as a profound failure. Why is that? Isn't peace a good thing to strive for?
For Nietzsche, a life dedicated only to peace and comfort is a life half-lived. He believes true growth comes from struggle, from overcoming great challenges, not from avoiding them.
So this wisdom of the academic chair is actually a kind of life-denying philosophy. It prioritizes the quiet of the night over the vibrant chaos of a meaningful day.
Perfectly stated. This is why Zarathustra declares that the time for these teachers is over. He says, not much longer do they stand. There they are already lie, meaning their philosophy is already dead.
And he ends with that sarcastic-sounding blessing. Blessed are those drowsy ones, for they shall soon nod to sleep. He's mocking their ultimate goal.
Yes, he's mocking the idea that the highest good is a state of drowsiness, a gentle slide into oblivion. He champions a life of wakefulness, struggle, and purpose, even if it's more difficult.
So this entire chapter is a critique of a certain kind of morality, one that values safety and comfort above all else. It's a call to embrace a more challenging existence.
It really is. He's asking us to examine our own values. Are we living a life of poppy-head virtues designed only for comfort, or are we striving for something greater, even if it costs us some sleep?
It's incredible how he uses such a universal human experience like sleep to explore such a deep philosophical question about the meaning of life itself.
That's the genius of Nietzsche. He takes the mundane and elevates it to reveal profound truths about human nature and our ultimate aspirations.
Thinking about the 40 thoughts again, it's almost like a form of cognitive behavioral therapy, a structured way to reframe your day before sleeping.
That's a very modern and accurate parallel. The wise man's method is a psychological technique for achieving peace of mind, which is why Zarathustra finds it both effective and ultimately empty.
Because it's a technique for feeling good, not necessarily for being good in a way that creates meaning or changes the world. It's fundamentally self-centered.
Exactly. The goal isn't to build a better world, it's to build a better night's sleep for yourself. It's the ultimate expression of a passive, comfortable existence.
This makes me think about a lot of modern wellness culture. Sometimes it feels like the goal is to smooth over every difficulty rather than confront it.
An excellent connection. Nietzsche's critique is just as relevant today. He would likely argue that a truly meaningful life requires embracing the very tensions and struggles that wellness culture often seeks to eliminate.
So, to wrap this up, the story is a powerful allegory. The wise man represents a philosophy of comfort, while Zarathustra represents the call to a higher, more difficult, but ultimately more meaningful life.
That's the perfect takeaway. It challenges us to decide whether we want a life of dreamless sleep or one filled with a purpose that is worth staying awake for.